All right, it's Wednesday, October 20, 2021. It's 4 PM and we're going to start the Town of Sangerville Board of Selectmen's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 is approval of minutes. A, Select Board Special Meeting 10/2/2021. B, Select Board Meeting 10/6/2021. And Special Town Meeting Warrant 10/11/2021.
I'll make a motion to approve A, B, and C as read.
Second. All in favor? 3. Item 3, review of treasurer's warrants, payroll 87 and 88. Accounts payable 86 and 89.
Make motion for A and B is read.
Second.
All in favor? Yes. Open session? Anybody like to speak today?
I would.
Help yourself.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to apologize for not staying for the whole meeting. After you go through the property maintenance article, I'm out. But I did want to ask, when and where did you post that there was going to be a special town meeting? Because I missed all postings. I ended up going to the town website once I found out there was going to be a town meeting, and I couldn't find the agenda, the articles that were supposed to be on the agenda.
I believe they were on there. They were also at Robinson's, the post office, and Country Time.
I don't go to Robinson's, don't go to Country Time, and I didn't see one at the post office. And,
And Diane Diane ended up putting an article in the paper, so it was also in the Observer.
see, I didn't hear, was it the Observer?
Yep,
Oh.
So, yeah.
so,
And there was also one in one of the free papers. Remember I took a picture of it?
oh yeah, oh, I thought that was Diane's.
No.
No,
No.
not me.
No, Diane,
Diane
Bowley.
Bowley.
Oh, okay.
No, it was in the free paper. It wasn't.
It was in the free paper. Was it in the Observer?
Diana put it in the
Diana.
Yeah.
Observer.
Okay, so I don't know who put it.
I don't know who put it in the
And it
paper.
didn't say the author of the one that was in, but I took a picture of it in the free paper.
It's just that, if there is a special town meeting, I like being at town meetings. I think it's my civic duty to be at town meetings and to be a participant. And this town meeting just kind of surprised me.
Do you Facebook?
Only to post for Stutzman's.
Good. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do it because
Well-
the papers, not many people get the Observer. Everybody does get the Gazette, but I think most people throw it away. If I put it on the website, people don't go to check there very frequently, unless you know something's up, you don't go to the website.
It was on the calendar of the website.
It was. And I didn't put it on Facebook this time, but I have a feeling that more people see it on Facebook than any of those other
Do
places.
you have at one time, I thought we had like a group listing of emails so that if anything like that were to come up.
I don't. I have
We
everybody.
did,
We
and that
did.
went bad in a hurry.
Oh,
And the reason why I say that was somebody, instead of sending that list out as a blind copy, it went out as a regular.
yeah, that's.
And that got, and it was an honest error, I would assume, but either way, everybody's
mess.
email, yes, that wasn't good.
And then it got used
Correct, that's somebody that was on the list,
inappropriately.
then took that list and was using it for spam mail or for a different purpose.
Propaganda.
Yeah,
Right,
I was trying to not go there, but,
right.
it's fair.
Yeah.
yeah, but it was, that's what happened to that.
Okay.
Turnout was pretty good. I mean, for a
Short notice.
short notice, odd time, there were quite a few people who attended.
What, 2 dozen?
Probably 30, 40?
30,
40?
I don't remember.
40
Yeah,
40.
I mean,
I was
I think
just-
I think our regular
I saw.
one is like 65 or 70, so.
I was just disappointed because I had no notice that it was happening, and I just wanted to know where the notice had been, because obviously I wasn't in that stream.
Well, I'm trying to figure out the best stream because, you know, some things are required to go in the paper, but I don't think many people see those papers, you know. So I tried to put it on Facebook. We had the issue with solid waste. And that had been, you know, that's been on our website forever, and yet people didn't know about it. And when you don't know about something, you think that they're hiding something. But it's not a case of, I remember before I was town manager, it's like, oh, well, they're hiding things. But it's not a case of you're hiding things if you don't go look on a regular basis to see what is actually happening, you know, like.
Of all the places that it was, can you think of a place that would have been better?
Better, yeah.
No, I mean, the post office is the place I look.
And I personally hung
I
that one,
do
so I
look.
know that.
But I don't know, I just didn't see it. I'm just, you know, and I understand, I mean, you can't hide something like that because you're legally bound to pre-post. So-
The other
There's
thing
no
for some
reason.
people, my mother, for example, she's developed a habit of listening to all of our meetings. So it's like this routine that she has. So if you're listening to our meetings every single week, you know what's coming. Because
We discussed it.
everything is discussed, and
Right.
we're gonna do this on this date. Same thing with the solid waste change.
Yep.
If you've been listening, it wasn't a surprise, we've been talking about it for a couple of years. So it just depends on how engaged people are, and like I said, my mother it's like, she
I'm
has
getting
breakfast and
bored.
listens to the meeting.
But I'm getting more and more that do the same thing, they work off shifts or whatever, there's no way they can come to a meeting. And that's how they're staying in tuned, and it's through our recordings, so.
It's really gotten to
And
be something
typically
people
it's up
appreciate.
by the next day, right?
I've taken to going in, plugging it into my computer and uploading it while.
After our meeting,
Yeah,
right.
while I'm, you know, putting
Right.
copies out for Lorna and Sarah and straightening all of that stuff out. I just.
If it's a few days late, I get a call.
Yeah, from your office.
Well, I'm just saying, people are looking for it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if the meeting while I was gone has been done, so I better go check that.
But that's something that we instituted, that's not required, that was not, in fact, prior, if you go back to when Tom was on the board, if you wanted to listen to a meeting, you had to make a FOIA request and bring in your own flash drive. And you couldn't say, I want the whole year, so that little change that we've made, I don't know that anybody else in the county's doing that, I think it's really helpful.
No, and even our minutes, I mean, and I'm not saying it's cause it's us, because I look at other towns' minutes, just to kind of have an idea
What's going on?
what's going on or how they handle different things. And the way we do it is more structured, and you can read the minutes and kind of, a lot of times, really get a feel of what we're talking about.
Right, the flow
Whereas-
of where the meeting went.
Yeah, the other ones,
Yeah, it's just-
they're more like a bullet point, or, you know,
Yeah.
you can't really tell what's going on.
Right,
So-
right,
You
And
don't
those
have-
aren't required either.
You
nope,
don't have to have an agenda.
right.
Nope,
For minutes, you have to have just the votes, just the legal pieces.
actions.
So we're trying, you know, we're trying to be as open and.
So
as,
item 2 and 3, that's what you would have been required.
Yeah,
And then anything, yeah, and then.
And nothing, well, and there's an executive session, so that would be on there.
Mhm.
But that's the only you have to put in the minutes. Anything else we discuss, you know.
Well, I need to learn maybe more about how to navigate the website, because I could not find anything posted about what the warrant was and what the articles on the warrant were.
we'll make sure, I'm not positive that it was, that it's on the front page, on the home page.
That would be helpful.
Just put the warrant there, because generally we put the warrant on the front page, and after the meeting, we put it into a slide slot that says town meetings, warrants, etc.
I mean, I tried seeing if the calendar that noted that there was a special town meeting was a link to,
Yeah,
and it wasn't. So, but, okay, so thank you for that. Secondly, I was kind of saddened, dismayed. You called at the annual town meeting for citizens to sign up for different committees. And I signed up for the property maintenance ordinance committee. Bridie, you contacted me about when can I meet, what days, how's my availability. I did all of that.
You and one other person go back to.
Well, but the whole idea is, I thought I was on a committee,
Yeah.
and I didn't get the courtesy of any kind of contact that said, select board has decided to do this, adopt Dexter's. I kept
That's my
waiting,
fault.
and I felt very disappointed about that, because
I put,
I stepped forward, and then the next thing I hear is there's already an ordinance that's been accepted at the special town meeting. And if you're gonna want citizens to participate, you've got to extend the courtesy.
I apologize, that is mine.
It
Dropped the
was-
ball.
it was
I put it
frustrating.
forward, we decided that we needed this ordinance sooner than a committee would be able to churn one out.
Mhm.
And we started looking for something short and sweet, and something that we knew had a track record, knew that it could be enforced, and then we sent that to our lawyer, and it's my fault for not calling you back.
Is it something that could be revisited?
An ordinance can be revisited
And expanded?
at any point in time. Yeah.
Okay.
But, well,
Because I did some homework thinking I was on a committee.
Well,
Well, that's the other
I
thing.
appreciate
We never-
Bridie
yeah.
taking ownership, because we didn't
Yeah.
We never actually.
decided not to do it. She
Right.
had two
Yeah.
people, and she should have called you back. It's unfortunate.
But it's just, I think that, I understand it was an easy way of getting something enacted so that you could take action against
The real
some
thing
people.
was, if we're gonna have a special town meeting, I'm getting daily calls about a couple of issues, and it's like, we need to get this, something on the books now that has some enforceability, and we need to get working on it now, because truthfully, this person wasn't even gonna be able to park in their yard if we did.
That's another example, though, that if you get, so that you can find our meetings and you can listen to them, this was revisited over and over and over. There was
Right.
lots of back and forth with the
So
three
in
of us.
a quick nutshell, to revisit why we did what we did. And I'm pretty sure everybody sitting here was at the meeting when the original one was brought to the town. That was a lot of controversy. Whether or not it should pass, shouldn't pass. There was a lot of discussion that day as far as, how many vehicles and blah, blah, blah. So one thing that we've talked about many times, and actually talked to Jerry about it, whatever we do going forward, if we get into a scenario where you start saying and listing out details of what you can do or can't do, it's not gonna pass or I don't feel that our town would ever pass that. Because I don't think our town is the town that people want that type of control. So I think, so that's why, and we didn't just pick Dexter's, we looked at other towns around, but their verbiage really matched more the language of what we needed for the enforcement piece. And it lets our CEO do what he needs to do so that's why we did what we did. We felt that was passable.
And it's a tricky balance. You have to have enough details to make it enforceable by taking it to court, but you have to have not so many details that this person doesn't like it for this reason, and this person won't vote for it for that reason, and, you have to have one you can.
I understand that the more detail you have, the narrower the flexibility is with the ordinance. Because people can look directly at verbiage and say, this says this, but I'm doing this.
Right.
So this doesn't work. I understand that,
Yeah.
but I also, and I know this is water under the bridge because an ordinance has been accepted. But I do see some of the language in it is open to interpretation in a way that could cause, what one person considers unsafe, another person could consider in transition kind of stuff, hopefully, but that's the problem, it's not in transition. But the idea that there is some verbiage that is open to interpretation that could be argued as, you know, you're just after
You
me.
can, you can argue that most of that verbiage comes directly from statute, and in that statute it is defined. But we may discover that we aren't specific enough, and we have to revisit this again. But that's the thing with ordinances, you have to work on them every few years, or they get out of date and they get, you know,
Obsolete.
obsolete, and
Right.
so.
But the original ordinance really wasn't even an ordinance.
It was useless.
It had no enforcement mechanism at all,
I
so
understand
I
that.
think this is an improvement, but I guess that remains to be seen.
Yeah, this may
Well,
not be the
we're gonna
end.
find out, because we all know we have a few areas and we need to push.
You're gonna apply,
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
And we're gonna know.
and using the ordinance that is now in force as the lever will determine whether it's truly,
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
If it doesn't function, we'll probably be revisiting it soon.
and I'll be on the committee?
Well,
Yes,
I can't promise there'll be a committee, but if you ever sign up again,
I
you will
have
be.
the list.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
list of two.
No, I have 5 people on the list, just only 2 people got back to
Okay,
me.
all right. Well, thank you for all the time that you've afforded me.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, old business, property maintenance ordinance.
I just wanted to update you, because it seems like since we passed it, nothing has happened, but our first letter has gone out. I recrafted it after the CEO wrote it to specifically use the verbiage in our ordinance. And so we will soon know whether our first,
When did that go out?
today.
So there was a site visit.
There was a site visit. The CEO has got a couple of more that he wants to address, and I think that if we use this letter that I've written as a template and just customize the specific issues that that it'll work better, that our verbiage will be
So the CEO isn't gonna do a site visit to address it directly. His first thing is gonna be a letter?
he did a site visit, nobody was home.
Okay.
And
Are we, just question, because
No.
I'm curious,
no,
are we taking
you should
pictures?
log- Yes, you should
Okay.
log, he has multiple pictures, you should log, I haven't seen his log, so I'm gonna have to ask him on this one, but the CEO should have a log of when he stopped in, and if he talked to somebody, what specifically he talked to them about. I believe he's also going to try to hand deliver that letter, because people see the certified mail and decide not to.
It's a process, but
It's a process,
we've
so
started, so we'll
we-
see what
We
happens.
started the process, is all
Yeah.
that I really wanted you to know on that one.
Okay,
Off the public forum.
Oh,
Either way, you're all
I
set.
came to speak.
oh, no, I'm sorry, we're back up to open session.
I don't think you did that intentionally.
No, I did not.
I just wanted to address the property maintenance ordinance was passed. I did know about the meeting because the lady in the store said, "What are you guys doing now?" I said, "I don't know," which I felt kind of stupid about, but seems how I'd signed up for the committee and planning board's usually involved. And I understand taking this outside the planning board. I think that really has merit to get public input for it, but. So I did know about it. I weren't able to come to the meeting. I had previous things I had to do. I think there's a few things wrong with it, and for the record, I just want to say it. First, it doesn't appear like it was time enough for a hearing, a posted public hearing. I think that would have been really beneficial. Almost all of the ordinances do have a posted public hearing prior to the day that you vote on them. That may or may not be a mistake, but I just wanted to say that Diane covered a couple of things that I was concerned with, the posting and the committee. And I'm fine with that, whatever you decide to do. The other little problem that I have with this is it's not only not specific, the interpretation of the body of the ordinance is subjective. George, for example, the other one had a farm exclusion, machinery exclusion in it, which I don't know of a farmer in Sangerville that can properly take care of the stuff and get it out of sight and all that. I'd like to have seen that because I think it's gonna, anybody that we cite from this point on is gonna go, and I think the farm machinery is a big thing. And it is unsightly in some cases, but, and the other part to do with the interpretation is left to code enforcement. I'd like to have seen that come back to an administrative body, then to enforcement. That's how most other ordinances are done. You administrate, then you enforce. And first, I think it puts the CEO in a vulnerable position. All the interpretation's up to him. I'd like to have seen even the select board be the administrator of this. And then when George, CEO, decided to send out a notice, it would have come before this board, for example. We're obviously going to get a new CEO. I'd like to have seen the select board review these before somebody is cited. Better for the code enforcement, better for the select board, I think, because some of these items are going to end up in court. And if it had already been to the select board, you said, yes, cite that person for those things. He wouldn't have made up his mind, code enforcement wouldn't, all by himself, and get the town into something you may not want to as a select board. You know the finances, our legal fund, all that stuff.
It can't go to court before it goes
Right.
in front of the select board. So I guess you're asking for the letter, the first administrative step to go. George did bring it in to me, and he doesn't just start writing letters. One of the things I want to address when we talk about the alternate CEOs was a CEO ordinance. I've been reading the code enforcement manual, trying to figure a whole bunch of issues out. We've had questions before. Who's in charge of the CEO? Is it the town manager? Is it the select board? Who makes which decisions? So we can go over some of that right now if you want
To Jerry's
Yeah.
point, I think I'm a little reluctant to have a process where the select board is involved from the jump. Because we would then your CEO makes a site visit, takes pictures, documents all the things that he or she thinks are a violation. Makes a suggestion that they start cleaning that up and making changes. Are you saying that we should be involved at that point as to whether that conversation even happens? Because I don't want to be.
and I don't think
I don't think we're supposed to be.
And
That's
then the
the
next step, when they don't comply, they've had their 10 days or 30 days, now he writes them up for non-compliance, should we be involved at that point? I don't want to be. Now, when it finally gets to the point and fines are starting to accrue, all the letters and documentation, and now they're not paying, and because that's really the only reason you end up going to court, is because you've got to collect your money. And you want them ultimately to comply. We are involved in that. The town can't go to court to hire, and process that legally, I believe, without this select board signing off.
Or there's a training that the CEO can take and you could sign off on that and then just,
Yeah.
but.
Right,
But that's
but
not-
we're gonna know
You're-
that
that's
the
not-
entanglement that we are about to put the town into.
Correct.
Correct. But that's why we have a CEO, that's what he's supposed to be doing. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. So as far as, the other thing too, and I mean, just kind of example of how much, Mike wasn't even here when this come to be. We all knew about it, but Jody and I, we were at the meeting to sign the warrant to make this go through. And with all of the complaints, that's when we put it on right then. So it's not like this was a, 3 months process or anything, so.
Right, because at that point, with all the phone calls coming in, we had
steady.
nothing to be able to.
And we had batted a few
Forward, right.
ordinances around, I mean, we sent at least 1 or 2 to the attorney. But every time we looked at them, they was like, this is never gonna pass.
And this is,
He
I understand what you're saying as
wrote
far
one
as
for us, and-
the verbiage.
Yeah, we said, there's not gonna pass, like you couldn't have a blue tarp that stayed out for certain, it's like,
Couldn't
that's
have a
not
fence
gonna
over
work in
20 inches.
Sangerville. Yeah, your fence was too tall,
Yeah, and yard sales that can't go on for weeks and, I mean, it was just so comprehensive that there was just no way.
And that, I think it was after that process, we said, you know what, check with the surrounding towns. See
Right.
what they have,
Right.
that they're actually implementing, and we looked at 2 or 3 of them, and Dexter seemed like the one that was the most likely to pass. It's not that we loved it, it was like,
Sure.
I think it might go through.
And the verbiage that's in it, I understand the interpretation, but the interpretation of what we have now is 1,000 times better than what we had.
Yeah,
And-
I don't disagree with that.
And the verbiage that we have, if you do look it up by statute, there's not a lot of interpretation, because it's all defined.
Junk
So,
and scrap and refuse.
Correct.
And
Right, all those words are defined. Right.
and I kind of agree with you on the farm side, but I also kind of disagree with you on the exemption for the farm side, because to define the farm status is a totally different thing. If the way the old one was written as a farm exemption, does that mean Johnny that has a baler and a tractor is deemed a farm because it's farm equipment? Because that's what some of our residents felt. So they didn't feel with that in there that what we were doing even applied to it. So, and this is no different than what we had, where we know our town, we know our code enforcement, and we know what we are. I don't think this ordinance is ever gonna get used because you don't mow your lawn too high, or you've got too many, you know what I mean? I think these are gonna be used for those few anomalies that we have to get it cleaned up. Now, as far as, if a farmer gets hit, I think the code enforcement or us, when it gets to our level, we all have an understanding of what a farm can be or should be. And I would like to think that our CEO is gonna work with them to, you know what I mean, not take it to that level. I don't think it's, and in no way was it done in a way that we're gonna target anybody, or, you know what I mean, that's not, no way.
There's low-hanging fruit right now. I imagine that when you put the pictures in front of the judge and say, this is what we're concerned about, this is what we want cleaned up, in the examples that we are all thinking of, there's no judge that's gonna say, this is acceptable. I don't believe that's, now, as you work your way down and if you become nitpicky, probably this ordinance isn't gonna hold up, but these cases that we're looking at right now should be a slam dunk.
They are egregious, I mean,
Yeah.
they're over the top.
I would hope that we live in a town that we're not gonna get that nitpicky.
Right.
That's what I hope. Cause that's not very neighborly when it gets to, you know what I mean?
It's very easy to
That-
fix though, because
It
you
is.
just, you
If
go
we need
right
to,
back
we
to
can.
town meeting and say, you know what, we gotta tweak this, it's not working. And it can be tweaked, so.
And they should be reviewed every.
Yeah,
few years
absolutely, if it's
anyway.
not working, the last one wasn't working, that's how we got here.
Yeah, I just had those things I wanted to say about it. I'm not upset about it or anything. I just from experience, I had those concerns. And I reiterate the public hearing power, but those are so important. And I know the last one the planning board had, nobody showed up.
Well, yeah.
And
That's
honestly,
pretty typical, actually.
I understand what you're saying about the hearings, but I think out of all of them that I've had, as long as I've been sitting up here, I think it's safe to say you could count.
One, the Gray Road. It's the only public hearing that I've ever had anybody attend.
We had one person at,
The last GA one.
yep, the last
Yeah.
day, one person.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the Gray Road was the only one we've ever
And
had.
we had,
Yeah, to abandon that road, to discontinue that road.
for shoreline, we had 3.
Okay.
Oh, that's right,
I
that's
missed
right.
that, I missed that one.
That's
One
right.
person who spoke, and that's the one Jerry was referring to, and a couple who never
Right,
said boo.
right.
But typically, we'll have the hearing in 35 seconds, we close the hearing, because there's nobody here for the hearing.
That's why we swapped it now, we scheduled the meeting at 5 and the hearing at 5, so we open with the meeting. And if somebody, then we recess to do the hearing, and if people are here, okay, we'll go as long as you wanna go, but usually there isn't, so we can open it,
Continue our
wait,
meeting.
close it, go back to our meeting and get done.
And different ordinances have different requirements, like shoreland has very specific requirements. You have to have it in a paper 12 days before the hearing and 7 days before the hearing. It has to be twice. General assistance has to be in a paper once. The traffic control one that we're going to talk about tonight, you don't have to have a hearing, you have to let the public know that you're going to pass this ordinance, so that they can come in and listen, and you have to give them 7 days, but you don't have to have a hearing. When I looked at the town meeting manual, it says if you have an open town meeting, you don't necessarily, for these other unspecified ordinances, have to have a hearing, because you were going to have a hearing
On the floor.
on the floor.
Yep.
But you do have to have it posted with the warrant, so everybody who comes to town meeting has a chance to read it and think about it. Now, you run the risk of you putting something in that ordinance that, one specific thing that upsets somebody and you don't pass it. But you will have discussed it, and then you'd have to go back to the drawing board if it didn't pass. So which way works?
There was a robust discussion. I mean, it started out, actually, there was a motion to pass over the question. And then by the time it was all done, there was only one person who voted against it. The entire room voted for it, so.
Do you have any idea why there was a motion to pass over?
There was an attempt to block it.
Okay.
And it was all around the issue you had, the lack of posting. Ironically, the person who voted against it was the one who put the article in the newspaper, so kind of irony, but anyway, but by the time it was over, they raised their hand.
But that night, Jody and I mean, we didn't get into this level, obviously, about the discussion about this, but we did talk about short notice and should we do this, shouldn't we do this? And at the end of the conversation is like, well, we're putting it in there, and if the people don't want it, they're gonna kick it out.
Right,
And we're not gonna lose any sleep over this one way or the other. But we have nothing, we have tons of complaints, let's just throw it out there, and we'll go from there. If the people don't want it, okay, then let's bring it back and let's try to tweak it if we need a committee or we need something. But as far as for right now, short notice, let's see if we can just fix something and get it out there.
That's exactly right.
And that's how and why.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thanks for coming.
And I do appreciate that you take the time to listen. I know that there are some places around that, I'm sorry, 2 minutes done, and they move on. I appreciate the fact that you extend the discussion and listen carefully, so thank you very much for doing that.
We actually enjoy it, we don't get much.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We don't get visitors very often.
Yeah.
So, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't stay.
Traffic ordinance.
Okay, you may remember that the Morgans asked if they could have parking spots in front of the art gallery. And Originally, the DOT referred them to me, and I contacted the DOT, and the DOT said, no, we have to deal with that. So I had Jody rush out, she took me some excellent pictures, we sent them in, and the guy decided to come out and view the spot and sent me the DOT's decision, which, subject to your approval, the following item is submitted for the Commissioner's record. The Director of Maintenance and Operations concurred with a recommendation by the State Traffic Engineer that the following no parking zone be established on Route 23 in the town of Sangerville as described below. No vehicles may be parked at any time on the east side of Route 23 from a point 100 feet south of Dowdy Hill Road and extending northerly to the Dowdy Hill Road. Basically, it's the length of the parking lot to the intersection. But then in the comments, it says the town of Sangerville amended their existing traffic control and parking ordinance on October blank 2020, establishing a no parking zone on the east side of Route 23 from a point 100 feet south of the Dowdy Hill Road and extended northerly to the Dowdy Hill Road. Subsequently, Town Manager Bridie Armstrong requested that the Maine DOT officially establish this as a no parking zone. The location was field reviewed on October 1st and discussed with Mrs. Armstrong. This section of Route 23 is located near an art gallery who is requesting parking in front of the gallery. Safety and sight distance concerns would arise if parking were allowed directly next to Dowdy Hill Road. Approval of the no parking restriction is recommended, signed by Alan Farrington, Traffic Engineer. As you probably all know, we don't have an actual passed traffic control ordinance. So I pulled it out to look at it, and I can either email it to you or you can pull it off the website. There are a few minor typos, and then there are a few things like with the Dowdy Hill, we should put in here it says 25 feet from intersections on 23. So for Dowdy Hill, we would have to specifically add the no parking for that 100 feet. School Street, you allowed some parking, but I think you should just have a winter parking.
So if we go 100 feet on that side, then that means no parking all the way through our art gallery, right?
No,
I think it's just right to the gallery.
so there's, I
Because
think
she's gonna
there's
have
room
parking.
there for like 2 parking spaces, right in front of the gallery. And that's what the engineer and I discussed.
What do we do on this side?
That's the intersection of Pleasant and,
I don't think is there any parking?
Sure, Chris, I mean, these buildings got parking in front. I think
Pleasant,
there's
no parking on either side of the street, starting at the intersection on Main Street, westerly to the intersection of Maple. So up the hill, there's no parking on either side. No parking on the north side of Pleasant Avenue, opposite the Irving station, between the 2 parking signs. So it doesn't address 23. So I guess that's called Main Street. So no parking either side of the street, starting at the intersection of School Street, northerly to the intersection of Mill Street, except as designated otherwise, which I assume means painted in. And I don't think there are any. No parking on the west side of the street, starting at the intersection of School Street, southerly to the intersection of Honeywell.
So there's no parking.
Right.
That's lined.
Pardon? What did you say?
Right down here in front of those buildings, that's lined as parking.
Yeah, but she's talking on the westerly side.
But that was,
We're on the westerly side.
that's, and
Correct,
that's School Street.
but that's what I'm asking.
Oh,
So for that side of the street,
right.
from the intersection, this way, what is our distance that
Oh,
we're
gotcha.
saying you can't park?
Oh.
I really don't see that we should do any different
Oh,
to one business
I see
that we're
what you're
doing to
saying.
the other
I
business.
see.
I don't personally care if it's 25 feet or if it's 100 feet,
But
but
it should be
what-
equal.
it should be
Well,
equal.
personally, I think there are too many parking spots on the other side of the Dowdy Hill intersection, because seeing around those can be quite precarious sometimes.
So
I-
bustling downtown.
So in your traffic control ordinance,
That's why I
you
don't
say,
think
you
so.
say 25 feet for the intersections on Main Street. I can't find it in here immediately, but I read it. No parking.
I mean, you're talking 33 feet from the center of the road out, and then you're talking 25 feet from that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're actually 58 feet from the center line down before you're gonna park. That's quite a bit. When you're looking at what we have for down here, I don't.
Yeah, yeah. But, I mean, there's that little,
But
postage
there's,
stamp.
but in that 100 feet that you can't park is a parking lot.
I understand that.
And
That's what I'm saying. I think 100 feet, if you take 33 feet from the center of Dowdy Hill and measure over, and then you go 100 feet down, I'm pretty sure you're gonna be
Beyond the gallery.
at least into the gallery.
Well, I will take my wheel on the way home and definitely measure that. He told me basically he wanted to cover the park in front of the parking lot. And that was what he said the 100 feet was. Now, he came on October 1st while I was not in.
Now,
Yeah,
maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but to me, when you reference a road, that road is 33 feet over, or whatever that is.
From the center.
From the center, that's how that road measures. So even though there's a parking lot there that's only 100 feet wide, DOT has a right of way through that. So if you're gonna measure a distance, I would think you would go off the center of the road.
Probably makes sense. Yeah, I mean,
I can clarify that with,
That's while I
Mr.
was,
Barrington.
yeah, I just think 100 feet, she's not having any parking. That's what I would think.
but the verbiage says, what does it say? It says 100 feet south of the Dowdy Hill Road and extending northerly to,
So if the road's a 3-rod road, it's 33 feet from the center line.
20, if it's a 3-rod road, it's 25. If it's a 4-rod road, it's 33.
So 25, then 100. It's a 100-foot lot, is an in-town lot, then that's what I'm saying, you're passing.
well, we should measure it out.
Yep, we can all go now if you want to. I will measure it on the way home.
I would think, I would think 25 feet off either side is, because it's the same deal. I mean, we're trying to, you want people to do things in town, and if you
Sure.
start doing 100
Well-
feet, there's no parking.
The traffic engineers also looked at that intersection when they shimmed the road this summer. And they asked to move the crosswalks, but they did not ask to move any of the parking
Correct.
spots. And I did allow them to move, they didn't remove any crosswalks, they moved them so that they were in safer positions.
We start hammering on traffic ordinance, the one thing that I know I brought it up, but I don't wanna lose sight, is the weight limit requirements
Yeah.
for Silver's Mills and French's Mills.
Okay, so if we keep moving, I can send this to you, you can, again, pull it up. Remove Abby Fowler from the parking, because nobody can park in Abby Fowler anymore. Municipal, section 8 is handicap parking at the town hall, and 7 is municipal parking lots. Think about perhaps allowing us to post a speed limit sign for the parking lot. We have 2 or 3 people who come in here like it's the Indianapolis 500.
How you gonna enforce it?
We're going to pass this ordinance.
No, you can't get a cop in this town to enforce a speed limit. I can't imagine you're ever gonna get anybody that's gonna sit here and say,
No, they're not
you're
gonna
doing
do that.
over 5 miles an hour or 10 miles an hour.
Well, I'm hoping that just the posting of it will
I mean, we
convince.
can get a sign that just says slow down, or,
Yeah,
We may actually
I would
have
just
one.
give everybody hell.
yeah, if you see someone that comes in to register their vehicle and they're driving like crazy, speak to them,
We have them.
yeah.
So-
But we don't have any teeth.
Right.
No.
Are they driving through as a cut through, or are they zipping in parking?
Zipping in parking.
Oh, I
You know,
mean,
like coming across here fast enough that if somebody were to just step out from under the entryway, like, you know.
I came down Dowdy Hill and sheriff was in front of me. made a right-hand turn without signaling, and then immediately made a left-hand turn into the little parking lot without signaling,
Well,
so.
I was late getting here, so I was doing 55 and 25. I didn't back out.
But at least you signaled.
Guys,
Just saying. No, I mean, we don't have
Oh,
any, it's not gonna do anything. I just don't see the point.
okay,
But I don't, personally, I don't have a problem if you want to put up, a slow down side or, but
Caution.
I'm under no illusion that we need an ordinance, cause it's not gonna,
It's not gonna do anything.
no.
no, we need the ordinance further,
Right, I mean,
Other, yeah.
specifically the parking lot speed.
unlawful parking. There's some, Public Works Director is in here a few times, we need to obviously
Take that
remove
out.
those.
Just tweak it.
Uh,
The beauty is it's never been passed, so there's nothing in there. That's to sit down and just change it.
The
Just
only
clean it up.
problem is that there are pieces of this that apparently have passed and have been added to the traffic control ordinance. So the chapter 12, restricting vehicle weight on a posted way. That was adopted, it says it was adopted, and I'll have to verify this, January 14th, 2014. And it explains why that you need to do this, and it explains that the definitions of words is basically the ordinary meaning of words, and that Title 29 has a list of definitions if you should need to figure out what those meanings are. So it says restrictions and notices. The municipal officers may either permanently or seasonally impose such restrictions on the gross registered weight of vehicles as may, in their judgment, be necessary to protect the traveling public and prevent abuse of the highways, or designate the townways and bridges to which the restrictions shall apply. Whenever notice has been posted as provided herein, no person may thereafter operate any vehicle with a gross registered weight in excess of the restriction during any applicable time period on any way or bridge so posted unless otherwise exempt as provided herein. So,
But that is referencing temporary posting.
no, permanent or seasonal.
Is that what it says,
It
permanent?
says either permanently or seasonally.
We may already have the authority
When
we
I
want.
know when we did this one, DOT had to get involved. It wasn't just a matter of changing it. putting
So
it
when I
in.
talked to DOT, they said if we had a traffic ordinance, we could do that. But the thing with McFeeters is, you needed parkmen to also post on their end, right?
Nope,
No?
nope, no
I
need
don't-
to.
is it posted on that end?
I'm not
I
sure if it
don't
is or it
think it
isn't,
is.
but it doesn't need to be.
Right.
The signpost is still there, the sign is missing.
Right.
It fell down.
Oh,
I called,
We could do Silver's Mills, and if Dexter didn't wanna do theirs,
you just stop it at
That's
the
okay.
town line.
I mean, it's not gonna depend on what we do.
well, when you post seasonally, you post at the 23 intersection, then you post at your town line. So I guess you could do that,
You have to do that. So even if we put it in our ordinance, we would still have to do that.
probably, yes.
Because it's
Yeah.
not, if Dexter wanted to do the same, they would have to put it in their ordinance, so they would have to pass that.
All of this is easy enough to find out. DOT's gonna, if our language gives the select board the authority to set these permanent restrictions, it's easy enough to check. What happens if Parkman doesn't like it?
Right.
Sure.
SOL, or not, right?
Yeah.
So,
That question I didn't ask, but if we do have a traffic control ordinance, and you have the right verbiage, then yes, you can
right,
do that. Anything else? Okay, so seasonally, when we do posters, it says the municipal officers are in charge of permits and exemptions. I have one or two people every season ask me, and generally they ask me the day before they need it, and I have to say I'm not a municipal officer, and
but the road commissioner can't grant it,
not with
our current.
Not with what is currently on.
So that might be something we'd wanna
something you
tweak.
might wanna think about.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
The other thing that was passed in 2014 was the mailboxes. Now, I have not reviewed any of things put in here to make sure that they're still,
What would be
Same
nice
law.
is a lot of that stuff should be all rolled right into the traffic ordinance.
yeah, this is it.
And then you
That-
eliminate,
And that's what it,
right,
so what you need.
that was the point. of why we were, the culvert ordinance, the mailbox ordinance, all of that stuff, we could incorporate all into.
In the traffic.
In the traffic ordinance.
So I need to figure out if that's legal, because you passed the traffic ordinance. Yes,
No, we didn't. The
You
draft,
did. You
the
did.
draft that we're working on hasn't been passed.
correct,
Correct.
but it is your job to approve.
We gotta get it onto a warrant.
Right.
No,
Oh, no.
no, the select board approves traffic
Oh,
ordinances, and I've got that here.
I always thought if it said ordinance, it required the legislative body.
That's
This
what we
is,
were-
this is one that doesn't. So, title.
The exception that proves the.
Title 30A, Section 3009, municipal officers have the exclusive authority to enact all traffic ordinances in the municipality, subject to the following positions. And basically, it says that it can include sidewalks, it can include removal of snow and ice. I think maybe you could make the owners of the said sidewalk actually do it if you wanted to.
Yeah, Bangor.
It explains some crazy stop signs that I've seen where like, why would,
Oh.
so if two selectmen decided, you know what, I like just driving through this intersection, move the stop sign, they can do that.
You could, yeah.
Yeah, well, Jonesport, I'm getting off track, but it's unbelievable how
Really?
ridiculous
Where
the
they are?
stop sign is.
And so then it goes on to parking
That's what it is then.
Yeah,
and handicapped accessibility, you must, we have the sign out there, you must have a sign. Yeah, so you guys ought to read this, there's all sorts of things that go in. And this is method of enactment. When enacting ordinances under this section, the municipal officers shall give 7 days' notice of the meeting at which the ordinances are to be proposed in the manner provided for town meetings. So we should put it on the website, we should put it in Robinson's, the post office, and Country Time, with a copy of the ordinance. And so if people want to come and have an issue with anything in the ordinance, then they could tell you that, and you could decide whether or not to pass it.
And we
So,
don't need to have a public hearing for that.
no public hearing. But
There's
you
not many
do,
things you really need in here for.
but you do have to give notice that you're considering it. And basically, it says you can't go against the DOT,
Right,
makes total sense.
yeah, right,
you have
yeah,
total authority, but you
Yeah,
can't.
up to this point.
Up to this point,
Yeah.
until the state gets
Right.
involved, so. I think we should look at passing something so that the Lorgans can have their parking spaces. I can call the DOT and see if it's,
yeah, where they're measuring from.
where they're measuring.
Right,
To
we just
clarify.
need to know,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then if,
There's
maybe
nothing
we all
officially
do wanna look
stopping
at it,
them from doing
I'd
that.
be as unobtrusive as I
there's
could
nothing
possibly.
officially-
Yeah,
That's what I mean,
exactly.
there's nothing officially stopping them from parking there now.
No, I mean.
Yeah, so there's no urgency.
There's no hurry.
Right,
No. And nobody will, there's nobody to enforce it if somebody decided they didn't like it,
Right,
Correct.
right.
so.
okay.
That was the, yes, that one.
Anything more on traffic control ordinance?
No, just, do you think we're going to be ready for next meeting so that I should try to post something, or we wait at least
Thank you,
another?
that's tweaking.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, because the status is such that nothing is being obstructed, that I don't see there's a real sense of urgency here.
No,
So,
so we can work on it.
yeah. You agree? Yeah, okay. Dale is nodding. Town managers report,
no, I need to add
okay?
alternate CEO and LPI.
Okay.
I've spoken with Brian Turner, he's agreed to continue to be our alternate, so that means next meeting I'll have a form for you guys to sign in, an appointment for him, but I thought, as I said, I've been reading the code enforcement manual, and Maine Municipal's instructions on how we should do these things properly. Do you guys all have access to Maine Municipal, or do I need to?
We all do.
Okay, so this is
Say that, I got a new computer, I don't know if my password
sample
works.
job descriptions. So if you go in under code enforcement, it's listed as sample job descriptions. I think we should have a better understanding of a job description for code enforcement. There's some things that we should change. I know we've talked about who appoints. Basically, the manual says that if you have a town manager form of government, that you should have it in your ordinance or charter. Well, you wouldn't have town manager government if you had a charter, but you should have it in an ordinance that town manager appoints. And then the CEO is definitely an employee of the town and subject to the town manager's, well, either discipline or administrative.
Oversight.
Oversight.
Yep.
So basically CEOs came about to do shoreland, but then now they do all sorts of other land use things, and that's kind of the stuff that should be in this ordinance. I pulled off, I don't even see it here, but I pulled off MMA's website. They have a sample ordinance. It's for Brewer. It doesn't really fit us because they're so much bigger than we are, but it's less than a page. It shows you how to set up an ordinance. I think we should look into passing that. That does have to go before the legislative body. So you can, if you want to put in your ordinance, you can make this a multiple year term. Shoreland has to be reappointed every year before the 1st of July, but rolls over if you don't. And shoreland zoning is only a piece of what you want your code enforcement officer to do. So that's why that list of job description is pertinent. You have to have a plumbing inspector. We don't have to have a building inspector because our population is under 200. Our fire inspectors are
Under 200.
2,000.
Oh,
excuse me.
okay.
How about
Getting
that?
close.
Yeah. The fire inspector is the fire chief. In some towns, the local health officer is also part of that code enforcement, which makes sense for us because the only kinds of local health that I've gotten in the last 2.5 years are things like dangerous buildings, sanitation, things that the code enforcement officer is going to go out, some of the things that they're going to go out for anyway. So, town manager's authority, if a municipality has a town manager operating under the statutory town manager plan rather than the local charter, the enforcement official required to be appointed by the municipal officers under some state law would be appointed by the manager instead, unless the manager delegates to a department head. If the enforcement official is the head of the code enforcement department, then the manager appoints him or her subject to the confirmation by the municipal officers. So there's a couple of ways to set that up. We've had an issue, we've talked about property right, where if you've held a position for a long time, that you can assume the position
Oh, yeah.
is yours. It lists language in here that should be put into the appointment so that it makes it clear that this is, whether it's 1 year or multiple years, that this is a one-time appointment and you have to be reappointed and you don't
You basically your tenure starts over.
Yep.
Yeah,
basically
that's
starts
better for
over.
the town that way.
It's better for the town that way. Shoreline zoning and plumbing inspectors, if you don't appoint somebody, they hold over under law. Again, vacancies, if you appoint by the town manager would fill a vacancy. If you appoint by the board, then the board would fill that vacancy. And I think we could switch either. I know we've had conversations about who's in charge of this, this person, you know, whether it be code enforcement or the sexton or, you know, some other appointee. So basically, if we have a CEO, they have to be 18 years of age, they have to reside in the state, they don't have to reside in Sangerville. It lists out which offices are incompatible. So, for example, the CEO should not be on the appeals board because, for the obvious reason, it is possible for the CEO to be on the planning board, just.
Oh.
It is less clear whether the position of CEO is incompatible with that of planning board member. It could be argued that at least in the case of shoreline zoning, the legislature did not want a single board member also to serve as CEO, because if you can appoint your board as CEO, they all have to be trained. They all have to have completed however many hours it is of training. And then it goes on to say that you can do that, not that they recommend it. Things you should know about. Okay. We just passed the property maintenance. There are other laws out there that do some of that, like dangerous buildings, there's junkyard law, there's automobile graveyard law. Most of those laws give you the board, the authority to enforce. So in some cases, such as the state junkyard law and the subdivision law, there's another one, the municipal officers are authorized to enforce the law. If they want the CEO to assume their enforcement role, they must approve a formal delegation of authority and recording it in writing. So that would give your CEOs more enforcement power. And they have...
So if the CEO encountered a circumstance that he didn't feel was covered under the ordinance that we just passed, he could come to us and
There are
say,
no laws.
this is outside, so, but I do think it falls under this category, we could grant him or her the authority for the junkyard.
One of the other ones in miscellaneous nuisances, that would be one that you have the authority, that would probably be a good thing to delegate to the CEO. It says that the CEO is supposed to work with agencies like the DEP and the EPA, but it also stresses that if you are unsure about other state and federal laws, it may be best to say nothing to people in order to avoid misleading the applicant with incorrect information, or to say only that the applicant may wish to check with the state.
Less is always more.
Yeah.
They say at first, oh, you should always be telling them, and then it's like, yeah, but that might get you in trouble. But if there are overlapping things, like we just had an instance with the shoreline zoning where the DEP got involved. These overlaps can work in our favor if Title 38, Section 443A authorizes the state to take enforcement action against a municipality that fails to enforce its shoreline zoning ordinance. So we should always be paying attention and enforcing our ordinance, or if they, either by ignoring the violations or by approving applications that do not comply. But therefore, we should always seek advice.
But everything you're talking about is why we have a legit licensed CEO.
Right.
So he's gonna take care of all that.
But if you call in the DEP and they take them to court, then we don't have the expense of taking them to court, and any fines would come back to the town. So there's a plus to that. And this is only like two chapters out of 10, and I won't go through them all, because then it gets into
Right, but what I'm saying though, is everything you're talking about is why we have a CEO.
It's why we
They're
have a
gonna
seat.
take you, you mean, you really don't even have to worry about it, 'cause that's
Right.
why their role is.
That's their role. I'm saying that we should define their role more explicitly, that we should have an ordinance, a very basic ordinance like the fire department ordinance that we just passed to, so that they have the proper, authority to enforce everything. And after that, I'm saying that we should give the new CEO paperwork in terms of log sheets, in terms of a form letter to use instead of just making up
His own.
his or her own. I guess I'm basically saying a little more organization here would behoove us and
More structure.
benefit the
Well,
town.
I think
Yeah.
what you're gonna find is what you're saying is what our new CEO is gonna learn what he should be already doing.
Yes. Oh, very definitely.
So, I
Very
think a lot of this
definitely.
is gonna come with the new CEO.
Mm.
I'm just
I'm saying
leery about
we
some
need to be
things.
helpful.
Well, I think that's where you gotta be careful, because a lot of this is on him and supposed to be him, so. I just worry that if you write a letter that goes to the CEO to serve, is it really, if something ever does come out of it, is it your letter or is it his letter?
Well,
That's a question, I don't know.
I don't know, I mean, there are sample letters in the back of all of the manuals for local health, for code enforcement. I think perhaps you're right in terms of like, well, we need somebody who can do that, I guess. Somebody who can look at our property maintenance ordinance and say, okay, this is the verbiage in here, this is what it says, put these chunks here. This is our shoreline zoning ordinance. This is what shoreline zoning ordinance says, this is why you're in violation, this is what I'm going to do to enforce it. Yeah, I mean, it's not
Correct.
difficult, it just has to be done. So, that is all I wanted to do on that. I will get the appointment documents the next time you can appoint Brian Turner as LP.
Okay.
Alternate LPI. He was not interested in being the new CEO or the new LPI full-time.
So he wants to remain the alternate.
Correct.
That's good. That works.
Okay, moving on to 7?
Hey,
Okay,
There's only one thing in 7 that I need to
I knew there was 7.
We had an issue last week with our trash bin up behind the Public Works. Somebody dumped a whole bunch of loose trash in it. And trash busters refused to dig through the trash to pick up our bag trash. It's since been cleaned up. I've since put a lock on the
Oh, yeah, there you
on the
go.
bin, and I sent the sheriff's department out to speak to the person whose receipt we found in,
Oh,
whose
there you go.
mail we found in the
Gotta love it.
bin. And so,
Detective Armstrong.
no, that was Detective, well,
We
He's an actual detective.
had the same
that
problem.
was Ken Bell. He agreed to clean it up for us.
Wow,
Because
yeah, good.
none of us wanted to climb into the bin and do so.
I make them do it, but.
Yeah, I would have made
Well,
the
we-
offender, but
we
you had to
need
find
to-
out who it was, right?
Find out
Right.
who it was, and by the time he'd,
Oh, my God.
Okay, that's interesting.
So what about all the plastic that's up there? Do they come and get all that?
they have not taken it.
What is it, from the sand pile?
I
It's
think
from
we
the
ought
sand
to,
pile.
I think we ought to possibly reach out to a different person to pick up our trash. They've been our principal forever, that pile of plastic has been there for years, it gets added to, they don't wanna pick it up. If they don't wanna provide the service they're supposed to provide, I would reach out to somebody else. and see
They
if we
probably
can-
want us to bag it, but
I- They're right there with a truck, I don't really see, and the only reason why it's as big as it is, because they never picked it up.
Right.
Every year, we're
It's-
just
it's-
adding
yeah.
to it.
No, but, and we might also be able to pay a local contractor to haul it to Dexter and be done with it. So, whatever it takes to clean up the mess,
Sure.
so,
I can think of a couple of people who might haul that off for me.
yeah.
Yeah, but,
Cause I think, I would check before I sent him down there, but I believe that Dexter will let him put that in the bin.
well,
So,
that's what I'm saying, is
Yeah.
if they would've picked this up when they were supposed to.
now, it may have to be cut into a certain size.
It's already small.
Is it?
Yeah,
It's
then
all
I think
ripped-
you're,
It's all ripped into pieces.
I think you're fine.
But it's just a pile of that.
But it's no different than hiring somebody to clean the sand up in the parking lot. They just
Right.
get it done.
Do
Yep. Okay, road commissioners report?
Road Commissioner's report. Mrs. York's
I
culvert
saw that.
is in. I'm not happy with it, but the contractor got the smallest culvert they could get, and without doing some major ditching.
Was pretty much what I explained might happen when she was here.
She's-
There's not enough driveway there to accommodate,
Any culvert.
you might have gotten away with the 4-inch PVC, but that's about
Well,
it.
the contractor looked for like an 8-inch
Yeah, I-
pipe, he couldn't find anything. Also, the intersection for the Gray Road and Flanders Road, there was been a culvert there for ages. That one's in, that one's good, that one's buried the way it's supposed to be, and looks good. In terms of paving, I keep getting the runaround. I just spoke to Ben Roundy minutes before the meeting. He promises me he'll have the grader here by Friday, and if the plant is running, he will start paving by Saturday. If not, he will pave Monday.
Looks like rain for the next 2 days, so I think your earliest is Saturday. And I don't know about temps on Saturday, but,
Is he planning on doing the cross culverts on Silver's Mills afterwards? Because,
I'm gathering on that as well, because they're doing,
I hate to say it, but somebody, and I don't wanna pay it, but somebody needs to put gravel or something in them holes before another week.
okay,
They're bad.
you've got another spot where, on Flanders Hill, where the pavement terminates.
some
That's
gravel.
bad.
I have approved gravel from the Weber pit, and Warren and Chris are supposed to be out grading and putting down gravel. So I will get after them again.
Also on Flanders Hill, that washout really needs to be addressed before we start plowing snow. But as you're headed towards Cleves, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
that's
no, yeah.
eroded into the road.
Yeah.
That's not gonna work very well for the winter. But those, yeah, those. I also noticed on my way over here today, on the Line Road, there's, technically, I think it's on Dover's half of the road, but it doesn't matter, there's a huge pothole that really could use, it needs some coal patch,
Okay,
okay? But it's pretty much dead center of the road, so I don't have a problem putting coal patch in there, it's bad, so, but anyway.
okay, if I get somebody to do. And then, let's see, boat docks and the boat landing. Herrick's graded the boat landing for me, and I've hired Clint Roden to remove the dock from a hammock and all the playground equipment. I've had to hire him per diem as an employee because he's not insured. So, well, even if I didn't hire him as an employee, workers' comp would kick him over to as an employee because he didn't have insurance, so it, just do the paperwork properly and go from there. Let's see, anything else on roads? Those are the roads highlights.
Okay. Do you guys, anything on the roads? No? I did speak to, Bob Brown. We talked about that
Oh.
cross culvert.
Oh,
I talked with Herrick's about the process.
Okay,
He says you need it,
okay. But, well, Bob said there's a lot of water there.
yeah.
But Bob had no objection to a driveway culvert instead, but he said there may be ledge there. He said that could be the reason it's set up that way in the first place, so that's all he
And
said.
Herrick's said that he didn't think a driveway culvert would take care of it, and he thought
So he's gonna replace that one.
he's going to go look at it, and yeah.
Okay.
If it needs replacing, he'll replace it.
I'm gonna suggest,
Mhm.
and I'm only suggesting this because this culvert has been done many times,
Mhm.
and it's always the same result.
Mhm.
So when he does that culvert, when he digs that out, if he needs to trench that 20 feet wide and get a base into there so that that ends up being this instead of the driving off the ledge that we've had for every time for the last
Can
15
we do it
years.
in the spring then? Because if we do a 20-foot.
I agree with you, yeah. Oh, it's bad though.
Well, I don't know 20 feet, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but
I don't wanna,
I'm just saying, if we do a big, I may not be able to get it,
Well, he's gonna have to have compaction. If he does a
Yeah.
big one, he's gotta have a roller.
yeah.
but I just hate to keep throwing money into
Right.
that one culvert and having the same thing
Result.
because everybody's stuck at trying to do it at narrow, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying making it wider is gonna help, but I'm just going with the theory that if there's no gravel in there.
I think it's
we
safe to
can
say,
taper or
don't
something.
do it the same way.
Right.
That's pretty
Right.
simple, yeah.
But he's not, every time it's been a different person, so
And you know, they could be struggling with ledge there too, I don't know.
very well. I don't know what's there because I've never been there when
It's
they do it.
it's an
I just-
awkward culvert, there's no doubt
It's
about it.
bad.
He said, a logging truck coming down the hill, empty, got jarred so badly that the metal post came out of the flatbed.
Oh.
They're supposed to be chained down, but that's how violent that is. It's the way the road tilts, it's just a perfect
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
disaster. Anyway,
Ugh.
okay, anything else on the roads?
No.
Executive session, is that, do you have a request?
I do.
Okay. We make a motion that we go into executive session under 1 MRSA 4056A.
Second?
All in favor? It's 5:15 and we are now in executive session. All right, it's 5:35. We're coming back into session with no action taken. I think we're done.
Make motion to adjourn?
We are officially adjourned.